Okay, so guys, before we get started with today's episode, let me give you a brief overview what Pathmonk is all about before we jump into the show. Pathmonk is the intelligent tool for website conversions, right? If currently 98% of your website visitors are leaving the page, then you might want to look in a Pathmonk because in the end, it's an AI that helps you to generate about 50% more conversions from the same website traffic. It figures out where people are in your buyer's journey, if they're likely to stay or likely to drop, and then it will basically influence them with relevant micro experiences, let's say case studies, testimonials, notifications, and much more. So you can stay relevant to their journey and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmonk to the page in seconds, let the AI do all the work, get access to 50% more conversions from the same website traffic. Check it out on pathmonk.com. In today's episode of the Pathmonk Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Elizabeth Sholes, and she's heading over from the folks over at Tint.ai. And essentially, Tint looks at the fact that every platform has its intrinsic risks and that they have you covered. Essentially, your brands, your customers needs the protection program. And this is really where Tint comes in. They basically help you to cover the gaps. So let's talk about it in detail. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me, Lucas.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe give people like a little bit of an insight. What is Tint all about in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. You did a great job summarizing, but we're an embedded protection platform. And what we allow our customers to do is still be the face and the brand that their end customers recognize and associate with protection. And we cover intrinsic risks. So those things that you can't get away from in your platform. I think the easiest example to think about is a marketplace where you're a platform, you're facilitating two different parties coming and having an exchange. There is inherently risk there. Things can always go wrong when you're bringing two people together. And what we help companies do is protect those gaps with protection programs that are tailored to the needs of their particular business and address the pain points or challenges that customers typically have when they're utilizing your services.
That makes a lot of sense. That's very interesting. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about sort of the organizations that benefit the most? Like, how would what type of a company would be an ideal fit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the clearest example, as I mentioned before, is marketplaces where you're a tech platform, you're digitally enabling two parties coming together and having an exchange of services or goods. That's the kind of like clear laser fit focus, but we work with a wide variety of companies. And as long as there's a digital transaction that's taking place, we're usually pretty good at figuring out a protection solution that could come in and help you increase conversion or create a profit center in your business through a protection offering. But obviously there's limitations to that. We do work in a regulated space. And so what we're able to build and the relationship you have with your customers and the contracts that are in the back end that you kind of tee and set up with your users all make an impact on the type of protection that you can offer. But our team of experts is there to kind of help guide you and help figure out if there's a solution that we can build into your platform.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, who would you say would be sort of those champions within those organizations? What roles do they have? Like which teams did they hail from in order to get Tint up and running?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And for us, it really varies on the size of the organization. Typically for us, the smaller the organization is, the more likely we are to be working directly with the founder, co-founder, CEO, or president. A lot of the decisions that need to be made as you kind of evaluate your protection journey for your individual company are pretty strategic. And so having alignment at that very top level of the organization is usually key for us. However, as organizations get bigger, we tend to work with like maybe a VP or a head of product, or sometimes even somebody in a customer success team that hears the pain points every day from their customers saying, hey, this isn't working, or we had this issue arise after we transacted with you. Are we protected from that? Is there something you can do to help me out in this instance? So as organizations get bigger, those tend to be the people we end up talking to, is either people involved in the product or people involved in that face-to-face over the phone interaction with customers on a regular basis. But as the discussion evolves with Tint, usually that founder or co-founder or CEO is still getting involved at some point in time.
That makes sense. Now, how would they learn about Tint? How would you describe their journey before they're getting to you guys and getting started?
Yeah, so I think people take different paths, and we have two core types of customers that come to us. One is somebody that has no protection program up and running today, but has either seen their competitors start to do it, or they know that there's that inherent risk in their platform and they're really trying to figure out a way to solve for that to increase the conversion, but they're very new to this idea of protection. And so usually they're doing a little bit of research online about what options are available out there, and they come across us as one of the potential solutions. Or we have a different audience that also comes to us. And those are people that already have a program up and running today with another provider, and they're looking to kind of grow and enhance their program in specific ways. So a lot of people will, as you're thinking about entering into this journey, you take the path of least resistance. What's easiest to set up? What is, going to be the quickest way that I can start to bring this value to my users? But after doing that for a year or 2 years, you may start to think like, we have all this data now at our fingertips, and we think that there's more benefit that we could be extracting from this. And we want a partner that's willing to kind of work with us to leverage our own data, to optimize pricing, or to help us take on more risk so that we can also reap the rewards of our program, which means essentially they're more involved, they want more control, and they know that their business is going to see the results of that. And so that's a little bit more of a targeted approach versus somebody who's getting started doing a bunch of research and finds us that way.
Makes a whole lot of sense. Now, how do you think about the website? Like, what role does the website play in your perspective?
Yeah. So for us, obviously the website's always a key critical component. I think it's a place that people can come and get a basic high-level understanding of what it is that we offer and some of the areas that we kind of play in. From there, hopefully people are, interacting enough that they come and they talk to us individually. But the website's not the only way that people come to us. We meet people at trade shows. We meet people through our investor network. We meet people through our founders and the networks that they're members of. And so we want to make sure that whether you've done some research and you found us through SEO or an article that we wrote and you come to the website, that you're getting relevant information. But if you didn't find us that way and you heard about us through something our CEO posted on LinkedIn, or you met our head of sales at a conference, we want you to come to the website and have a quick, clear understanding of what it is that we do, and be able to kind of start to dig in a little bit deeper there, and eventually talk to our sales team.
Very cool. Now, if we're talking about the website for a second, a lot of marketers we talk to, they have always a critical eye on it. What do you consider sort of a strength of the page versus where do you see room for further development and improvements?
Yeah, so there's always a ton of stuff on my list for further development and improvements. Like, that never goes away. I can't turn that side of me off. So I think in the kind of near-term future, we'll be looking more at conversational marketing and how does that play a role in creating some qualification opportunities and conversion opportunities throughout the website. And how do we custom tailor that to the individual page that the user's on? I think keeping that front of mind is like, what is this page about? Why might they have come to this page, and what questions can we answer for them is critical. So that's one area that we'll build out. We're actively building out frequently asked questions sections that relate to a whole different variety of users, so that you can very quickly and easily jump to our general frequently asked questions, or start to get into more specific solution-oriented questions. If you have, if you are from a particular industry or you have a particular solution in mind, we're actively building those areas out on our website. But some things that we do well now is trying to kind of build some visual reference points. What we do, if you've never heard of it, is pretty abstract. And so we're trying to take those abstract concepts and make them more concrete with our words and also with our visuals. And so that's an area that we've spent some time focusing in on. Obviously, it will continue to evolve over the course of time. But the way I think about, websites in general is if you had like a retail store, you would only have so much square footage in that store. And if you had something that looked pretty but never sold, and it was front and center or taking up a ton of room on a shelf, you wouldn't keep it there for very long because you want to make money. You only have so much square feet, so you want to use it wisely. Your website's kind of the same. And so for us, obviously we want to give any change that we make time to soak, time for people to adjust to it, but we want to evaluate it quickly and carefully and often so that if the language in a CTA isn't working, we update that and we see what it does to forms. If a placement of, a certain block of text is not getting engagement on the website, there's clearly something there that's just not working or not providing value. And how can we then take that and try to find a way to have it be more meaningful for the people coming and visiting our site?
Very cool. Now, I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk about you and your daily work and routine a little bit. Maybe tell us and tell the listeners a little bit about, so what would be like typical projects that you would be involved in?
Yeah, so our marketing team is pretty dynamic. We're small but mighty, and we have our hand in a lot of stuff. So not only does the website fall under our purview, our demand generation activities fall under our purview as well. So we work on a lot of content, and we're trying to pump out as much content as we can that's relevant for the audience that we work with. We also have a hand in being able to kind of take new solutions to market. So we do a lot of kind of intelligence and product marketing work on that side of the house to be able to inform where our product should be going in the future. And then, building campaigns around launching those products when they actually come to fruition.
Very cool. Now, to wrap it up for today, I have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Sure, I'm ready.
What would be the last book you've read or the last podcast you listened to?
So I actually just read a book, like right off the side of my desk, but it's called Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance. And it's a light read, but it's about two sisters, one of whom ends up dying in a car crash, and how that sent ripple effects through the rest of the family's life and the lessons they learned as a result of it.
Okay, insightful. Now, what would be the one single thing that your marketing team is focused on the most at the moment?
Building evergreen campaigns around the different audiences that we have, and really trying to take the insights from our current customers, how they came to us, how they heard about us, the value that they've gotten out of working with us, and translating that into ways that others can see how this might impact their own business.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, what would be the one single thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
That's a tough one. I think what I would fix if there were no boundaries in the world of tech is being able to give people their privacy that come and visit and interact with your content, but somehow be able to extract the insights or impressions that they got from that very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. Now, for people, as we slowly, wrapping up slowly for today, if today would be your first day joining Tint, what would be the one advice you would give yourself for the journey?
I think that I still try to wake up and give myself this advice every morning, but keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and have confidence in your convictions. If you can back up your thoughts with data or with insights, then keep running with it, even if others are not quite there yet. Eventually they'll get there and you'll be glad that you stuck with it.
That's very, very good. Elizabeth, I really appreciate you took the time with us and guided us through the world of Tint. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Tint today, what's the one advice or the one thing that people should remember?
Is that every platform has intrinsic risks, and whether you choose to cover them or not is your decision, but your customers will base their decisions off of how comfortable they are interacting with your brand and how well they trust your business. If you can use protection as a lever to increase that trust, it's worth exploring.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmonk Presents.
Thank you so much for having me.